Good afternoon, everybody. It's Steve Emmets here from MX Publishing. Today we are talking to Chris Delaney about influencing the job interview. Good afternoon, Chris.
Good afternoon, Steve. Thanks for inviting us down for this interview.
No problem at all. This is one of my favourite books in our portfolio, and it's doing extremely well, particularly on audio this year. And I just wanted to touch base with you and learn a little bit more about the techniques involved. So if we jump straight in, one of the things that you talk about a lot in the book is preparation and practice. So tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, well, 8 out of 10 interviewees don't practice or prepare for the job interviews. On average, they spend 20 minutes, which is normally the night before, getting ready for the job interview, compared to the 2 out of 10 who often spend about 20 hours preparing, practicing and researching. The more you prepare, the more likely you are to get that job offer.
Fantastic. And one of the things that's important is to try and predict what questions you're going to get asked. I guess that's integral in the practicing.
It's amazing when I do interview coaching, the amount of people who don't know what questions they're going to get asked is unbelievable. It's so easy to predict interview questions, which allows you to prepare your answers. There's 3 ways. 1, it's on the job criteria or the job application form. Every key criteria becomes an interview question. 2, you can go online, places like LinkedIn, and ask people who work in that industry what type of questions they get asked. And 3, because you work in that sector, in that industry, you'll know the key questions that you get asked because the same companies ask the same questions for the same job position all the time. So the key to passing job interviews is predict the questions and prepare your answers.
Well, I do a lot of interviewing as part of my day job, and I have to bear that out. So we've just done an interview with a couple of final candidates, and it was quite obvious that one of them had prepared and one of them hadn't. And the one that had prepared, you could see her sort of say, "Oh, that's a good question," and then she went straight into her answer, which was really well thought out. And I guess that's really important when you talk about things like competency-based interviews, where people are asking for, give me an example of when you've had a difficult customer to deal with, or that kind of thing.
Yeah, well, do you know what? She must have read the book. That's one of the techniques in the book is when you know the answers to the questions, you sort of pretend you don't know it. So you're thinking about the answer in real time, but obviously people have these answers prepared and ready. And it's the key. It's the key because people offer people jobs based on likability. And if you're confident and you're delivering a structured interview answer, people just like you more because they can see you fitting into their team. So people logically don't. People don't logically give people a job. It's all emotionally based. If they like you, they're more likely to offer you that job position.
Yeah, I must admit I do, because I interview a lot for sales roles, and there are lots and lots of questions you can ask a salesperson. I have a couple of my favourites, which nobody predicts, which are a bit off the wall, and that's always quite useful for me to see people's reaction to that. And but I would say that, in terms of being prepared and getting 9 out of 10 or 19 out of 20 of the questions being absolutely ready, I think it's nice to be a bit human in an interview and have a bit of trouble with 1 or 2 of the questions. But in that recent example, we had one guy and he just obviously was struggling because he hadn't prepped for any of the standard questions as well.
Yeah, it's so important that, because it's not about you just tricking the interviewer to give you the job, because you want to see if the company's a great fit for you, and if the company's a great fit for the manager as well. It's both ways really. So if you fake every interview question, you fake every answer, and you're trying to influence it on a level that's not sort of in line with your values, you're never going to stay in that company anyway. So this book's really all about helping you influence the interview, but you need to make sure it's the right fit for you and the organisation. You've got to match.
Yeah, and I really like this particular slide where you talk about stories, and I guess this is a lot of the competency-based interviewing techniques that the interviewers are trained is around to try and get people to talk about a specific situation where they've employed a particular skill, so that you can really get relatability to that. But you're taking that another step here, is to say that if you create that story, then you're on to emotions. Tell us a bit about this technique, Chris.
One of the barriers with people in job interviews is they get asked a question and they give a logical answer. So give me an example of when you've done X and start listing things that they've done in previous organisations. which is kind of fine because you're hitting the criteria, you're showing that you got a little bit of experience. But what you have to remember all the time is that interviewer is asking these same questions to 6 candidates that have a very similar experience to yours. Often interviewers, because we're human, get tired, get a little bit bored hearing the same thing over and over and over again. And when you hear logical information, it goes into your short-term memory and then often disappears quite quickly. So the likability is not there. They're not emotionally involved in you. They're hearing the same sort of answers from all the different people being interviewed that day. What you need to do is flip that so you can get inside someone's mind. And what you need to do is create stories, because stories do create these images, and these vivid images are very powerful. And all you need to do is like set the scene, give like hooks, describe things in a way that the interviewer can visualize it from your perspective, as if they're seeing the world from your own eyes. And when you do that, people get an emotional pull. And if you phrase that interview question in the positive, so there's been a problem, and then you solve that problem and you've got a great outcome, which is like the hero's journey. Every Disney film is a hero's journey. You can do that in interviews. People are going to like you more and want to offer you that job. I do this as a hypnotherapist. When I'm speaking to my clients and getting them to relax and to become calm and peaceful, I describe a scene in such vivid detail using different emotional words that they feel like they're there at that moment, which is why they feel relaxed. What you do in job interviews is create a problem or a situation that you had to solve, create it visually so they get really involved into it, and then positively give a solution using emotional words, and people can see it, people can feel it, and people want to offer you the job.
Fantastic. Because it's much more relatable if you can get emotionally involved in that story. And I think you've hit upon something there. I think it's quite important for, as an interviewer, that whole, this is a difficult situation that I found myself in, and this is how I got through that. That's probably a question that comes up in every single interview.
Yeah, definitely. But even like simple questions, so they might say something like, "Do you have experience of using a CRM like database system?" And what generally happens is people are not confident in their answers, so they'll say something along the lines of, "Oh, well, yeah, kind of. In one company, we kind of had a CRM system." When you mumble like that, you lose credibility. What you want to do at the beginning of every interview answer is state confidently that you have that skill or that experience. So if you're asked, have you got experience using a CRM database, your immediate answer in that key second should be, yes, I have lots of experience using that database, or whatever it is they're asking you, and then create that story. So what the interviewer is hearing is, I want you to have this skill, and straight away you say you have that skill. Then the next thing they hear is this story that you're building up. And often in the stories like I just referenced then, you talk about the problem first, then the solution, and then you want to give the outcome to that solution. Just imagine you want to lose weight. You actually don't want to lose weight. You want to be more attractive, or you want to live a longer life. That's the outcome to your solution. And you need to do that in job interviews. Problem, the solution, and then the outcome to that solution. So I created X thing for a certain organization, and the outcome for that is that they increase profits or decrease overheads. Always give the outcome, because that's the motivational pull that employers are looking for.
Fantastic. And this is interesting. Focus on fear, and fear will be your focus. Tell me about this. I wasn't quite sure where you were going with this one.
So I work with lots of people who had to do presentations and mini workshops sometimes as part of their interview process, or just people in general are quite scared of going to job interviews. Public speaking in job interviews is rated more fearful than dying, which has been shown in loads of research, which is strange, isn't it? People find going to a job interview or public speaking more fearful than actually dying. And when you've got this focus of fear in your mind, you're not going to be you. You're not going to perform naturally. You're not going to be yourself. So what you need to do is get rid of that fear, so you can be in the moment. You can be confident. You can be present. So what I do is teach people techniques, and they're all described in this book, to help people overcome their fears and phobias. So as an example, say I'm going to do a technique on you now. Have you got something that you're fearful about, or something that makes you scared or worried?
I've got a little bit of fear of edges, which is edges, vertigo.
Okay, yeah. So if you can imagine that in your mind now, so imagine like an edge. Can you picture that?
Yeah, quite easily. Yeah, I struggle
This
with
is the same with job interviews. Ask someone to say, can you picture going to a job interview and being scared? Or like they picture it straight away. So when you think about that thought in your mind's eye, where is it? Is it kind of like in front of your face, or do you see it far away?
it's quite close because my challenge is edges, so I feel like I'm on the edge of it, so it's quite in front of my face.
And everyone who's got a phobia or a fear will see that perspective in front of their face. And the reason because of that is when you're not scared of something, someone says, think of a job interview, you're not really that associated to the emotional pull to that. So you see it in the distance. When you're scared of something, it's so powerful that you see it in the present moment right in front of your face. So I want you to imagine pushing that photo in front of you so you can see the edges of that picture. Can you do that for me?
Yep, I'm
And
doing
then I
that.
want you to imagine you can put that photo in an old frame. So if you go to like an old art gallery, you'll get big wooden frames or big iron frames. I want you to put a picture in a big wooden frame.
Okay, yeah, I got
And
it.
then drain the colour from it so it becomes black and white.
Okay.
And just with this part of the exercise, do you feel the same fear or less fear or more fearful?
Well, less because it feels like a picture.
Yeah. And I want you to get that picture now and move it further away from your mind's eye so it's getting smaller and smaller. So it's the size of a postcard. And then push it further away and further away so it's the size of a stamp. It's becoming quite hard to see. And how does it feel when it's over there?
Pretty irrelevant.
Yeah. And then all the way so it's a dot on the horizon and just let it disappear. And how do you feel now?
Yeah, I mean, until I look back again at that original image, yeah, it's I'm on to the next thing.
Yeah, and this is such a powerful technique because most of us do feel fearful going to a job interview, even when you're a confident person. So when you're sat in reception waiting to be called in, think about the interview that's making you scared or fearful. Just push that thought in front of you, put it in a frame and drain the colour, and then move it further and further and further away. And in real time, you can do that in about 3 to 5 seconds. When I do this with clients on a regular basis, I get them to do the movement like really quick. So it's like go, 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 go. And they repeat it about 5 to 10 times. And they often find that that fear focus can't come back again. So in your job interview, using this very simple technique, you'll now control your emotions so you can get rid of the fear and feel more confident. And when you're more confident, when you focus on confidence, you'll be confident in that job interview. Ideally, you're going to be the natural version of you.
That's a really fascinating technique and something that people can do quite easily. You've talked a lot about, in the book, about the use of language and how that influences within an interview. I think that this goes back to something for me around what you talked about earlier around preparation for an interview and making sure that you're using the language that is related to the job. And I've seen this again in interviewing many salespeople over the years, marketing roles, etc. Is that those people that bring in language that's very relevant to the sector that we're in certainly helps a lot within an interview. Tell us a bit more about this.
Yeah, so that's like one level. So we'll talk about the language and the acronyms that are used in your sector and your industry. And people will perceive that you've got that level of knowledge that they're looking for. So just by using the same acronyms, the same language, people perceive without questioning you, without challenging that you've got a certain level of knowledge. What we can do though is take this even one step further. So people are motivated in very different ways and very different levels. And what you can do when you train to do this is listen to the language your interviewer uses, work out their motivational traits, and then change your language so you can motivate that person and influence them through the language that you're using. So that sounds really complicated. So I'm going to make it dead simple. And again, Steve, if you don't mind, I'm going to do an example on yourself.
Okay.
Yeah. So can you tell me what's important about your job?
That's a good question. So, in terms of the publishing, it's important for us to make sure that we're producing good quality books that people want to read, and that we get great reviews back from the customers.
Okay. And why is it important to get great reviews from your customers?
Well, it's the strongest sales technique for people to buy books is peer review. So when people, especially now that the majority of book sales has gone online, that peer review is the main reference point for people to see whether the book is good and whether they want to take a chance on reading it.
Yeah. And why is that important? Why is it important for people to see that the book is good and to take a chance on reading it?
Because they'll buy the book and you make the sale and we can do more of the social enterprise stuff that we do if we make more money.
Yeah. So it sounds like I'm interviewing you now, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So I asked you those 3 questions to try and listen to the language you're using. So one level of motivational language is that we're either motivated to get away from pain, or we're motivated to find and achieve pleasure. And the way people are motivated individually comes out in the language that they use. So as an example, you seem very goal orientated. You seem like you're searching for the pleasure rather than getting away from pain. So you use language such as to gain this, or to achieve that, or to find these results. Compared to someone else who works in the same industry that's been asked the same question, they'll say it's really important to produce books because they don't want to have any debt, or they don't want to be unsuccessful, or they don't want this, or they don't want that. What some people do is state the problems that they're trying to get away from, and that's how that person is motivated, compared to someone like yourself who's more motivated by achieving things. And there's about 14 levels of motivational language, and when you can recognize this, you can very simply just change some of the words in your interview answers just to influence that person on a deeper level. And what we find when we teach people this technique is that interviews go, God, I just got on with you. We just kind of bonded. It just felt really natural together. It's because you're speaking the same motivational language.
That's very interesting, because I could have answered that by saying we want good quality books because we don't want bad reviews. So I can see what you mean there. That's really fascinating in terms of that. I've also heard that mirroring and playing back the person's words is a good technique. Do you subscribe a bit to that as well?
Yeah, definitely. Mirroring is really, really good. Yeah. So using their words, so if they ask you like a situation question and they're talking about a problem and then a solution, or they're using particular descriptive words, yet use those words, maybe those words in your answer. Because in our minds, we have like loads of filters that are unconsciously happening. So the ones that are dead common stuff, like we're seeing things, we're hearing things, we're smelling things, we're tasting things. But there's all these other levels in there as well, where people filter the world through their beliefs, through their values, through their own experiences as well. So when people see the world and hear you in a job interview, it's all being filtered by these different levels of stuff. And everything that affects that person, everything that motivates that person, everything that's have an influence on that interviewer comes out in the language they use. So if you mirror their language, it goes back in and goes through these filters in a way that they're motivated, hopefully, to offer you that job position.
I think also subconsciously is, well, if you play some of the part of the question back as well, it shows that you're listening properly too.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. You want to be doing. You want an interview, really? Because this book is to give you techniques to help you influence it. But really, this book is to give you techniques so you feel confident to just be you. And if you're in that interview having a natural conversation, the interviewer asks you a question, you ask them questions based on that question, and you start chatting and having a conversation. That's actually the best situation to be in there, because you're just being you, the interview's being there, and you can see if you're the right fit together. And if you're not the right fit, then go for other jobs and go for other positions. But you're trying to make that interview a natural place, really.
That was a key thing I wanted to pick up on that you mentioned earlier, is that this is about trying to relax you down to be yourself. And then if yourself is a good fit for that interview, it will go well, you'll get the job, and then you'll enjoy the job. Because faking an interview or trying to not be yourself in an interview, you get the job, you won't last long because it won't be a good fit for you.
Yeah, it's very pointless. And I think by having this like toolbox of techniques that you can jump into when you need to, gives you the confidence. If I struggle, I can use the story technique, or if it's not going too well, I can use the moving technique. But really knowing that you've got these techniques to fall back on allows you to be confident anyway. And if you reflect back to the very beginning where we talked about researching and preparing, if you've done that enough, you'll be fine in that job interview as well.
That's brilliant. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Chris. It's been absolutely fascinating, this deepen into those techniques. The book's out there in print, ebook, and as I mentioned before, it's in audiobook and doing really, really well this year. And if you want some more information there, you can also go to Chris's website, employmentking.co.uk. Thank you very much, Chris.
Yeah, thanks, Steve.